Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a science fiction horror film, The Fly, Part 2. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. In the first part of The Fly, Ronnie is afraid that she might be conceiving a child like her scientist partner Seth Brundle, who turned into a human-sized insect due to his teleportation experiment. But a few months after the incidents, Ronnie is seen in labor and is now giving birth in the Bartok Industry Building, the company that once funded Brundle's project. Ronnie's ex-boyfriend named Statheyes is watching her deliver the baby and freaks out as he sees Ronnie screams in frustration. Meanwhile, Mr. Bartok, the company owner, comes into the building to check Ronnie's situation. Ronnie struggles to release the fat baby. Then the nurses are surprised as she gives birth to giant larvae. Ronnie freaks out and dies from shock. And soon after that, the nurse releases the baby from the larval sac. After that, Mr. Bartok is in a meeting with the medical practitioners. He adopts the child and puts him under study. But he tells them not to treat the child like a laboratory animal. The doctor who examined the child discusses the result with Mr. Bartok and mentions the child's development and that the child never sleeps. Then Mr. Bartok goes into the room where the child plays with the other doctor. He introduces himself and asks him to treat him as a dad. Then Mr. Bartok names him Martin. After a while, Martin grows into a young, intelligent boy. His mental maturity is accelerated. The doctor is still examining his capabilities and development. He's impressed by Martin's helmet invention, but is also annoyed by his intelligent and naughty behavior. While the doctors are injecting something into him, Martin asks if he can see Mr. Bartok. The doctor tells him that Mr. Bartok is busy with his project in Zone 4, and he is not allowed to go there. Later on, while the personnel is asleep, Martin uses the computer with the doctor's name and gains access to go outside. Martin escapes from the ceiling, wearing the helmet he invented to spectate the surroundings. Martin successfully reached Zone 4. He sneaks around and finds a room that contains the laboratory animals. Martin befriends a dog. He sits on the floor carrying it and talks about his rare disease called Brundle's Accelerated Growth Syndrome, named after his father Seth Brundle, wherein he grows up a lot faster than usual, hence the name. The next day, the personnel deliver Martin's favorite lunch, but he secretly puts them in the plastic. He then goes to Zone 4 to bring the food to the dog. Unfortunately, the dog is not there anymore, and there is a tag where it has been transferred. Martin quietly enters the facility, an observation booth where the scientists have reassembled Brundle's telepods. They have been trying to duplicate the programming to enable them to teleport a living subject. The scientist comes with the dog and puts it into the telepod. Martin is glad to see the dog sitting in the telepod, but he's unaware of what is about to happen. The scientist initiates the telepod. Martin feels curious when the dog vanishes. Then the scientist checks the other telepod and announces that the dog is alive. Just a second after, the dog attacks the scientists and maims him, which horrifies Martin. Mr. Bartok, who is surprised by Martin's presence there, immediately goes to comfort him with his fatherly muscles. A few years later, Martin's body has matured to that of a muscular man. Mr. Bartok and the other scientists celebrate his 5th birthday with him. Mr. Bartok knows that Martin wants his privacy as a grown-up, so Mr. Bartok hands him a bottle of wine, which Martin throws to break the mirror wall where the scientists used to monitor him. After that, Mr. Bartok accompanies Martin and shows him his gift, a bungalow. He also offers him to work in the Bartok Industries to repair his father's telepod. Martin seems uninterested as he holds the memory of the dog, so Mr. Bartok apologizes for it and persuades him by asking him to watch the videotapes of his father's documented progress. Martin watches the videotapes and finds interest as he hears his father explain the power of the telepod. He then accepts the offer. Martin works there and befriends an employee named Beth, who is playing with her artificial fly. They get to know each other, and Beth is shocked as Martin tells her that he has been working there from day to night. She then asks him about his work. Martin tells her about the telepod. Beth seems dubious, so Martin brings Beth's cactus and asks her to come with him to the lab to prove how amazingly it works. Martin excitingly puts the cactus in the telepod. Disappointingly, the result is not what he has expected because it's made mutated. Beth sniggers and tells him to keep it instead. She goes back to her office, and Martin follows her. He asks her to be his friend and to meet again because she smells good to him. Beth agrees, not knowing that the fast-growing man targets her hormones. After she leaves, Bartok's officer surprises Martin and teases him about getting a girlfriend, which annoys him. After that, Martin is being tested by the scientists again. He proudly tells them that he took a 2-hour sleep, which means he is becoming normal. But the scientist dismisses his speculation, which disappoints him. The scientist seems to be annoyed with Martin, so she gets ill-tempered and blames him when she injects in the wrong vein. Then Martin walks out. Subsequently, the scene shows Martin and Beth's quality time together and how they have developed their relationship secretly. One day, Beth and Martin attend a party of the specimens division. Martin overhears a man boasting to a group of people about their specimen, who has been alive for 2 years. He gets curious, so he goes to where those people went. In that place, Martin puts food in a holding pen. Then he sobs as he sees the mutated dog get the food. It makes him furious to discover that the dog has been kept alive and studied. Suddenly, Beth comes and chases him as he walks out of their division, infuriated. After that, Martin comes back to the animal's holding pen. The deformed dog still recognizes him. Martin cries as he sees the dog suffering, so he euthanizes it to end its pain. While Martin is working in his lab, Mr. Bartok asks him about the incident in the specimen division. He lies about it, but Mr. Bartok already knows he's lying. Meanwhile, Beth receives a letter from Martin. She then goes to his lab and apologizes. Martin reconciles with Beth and presents his discovery. He shows her a kitten and puts it in the telepod, making Beth worry. Martin asks her to initiate the telepod, and she is surprised to see the kitten teleported into the other telepod. Beth is astonished, and Martin explains how he made it possible. After that, they become lovers at Martin's place, escalating their sweet-scented friendship to a smelly hormone ship. The following day, as Beth wakes up, she sees and worries about the infected wound on Martin's arm, but he reassures her that it's just a minor accident. Then Martin looks for a possible cure for his condition, as he sees his arm getting worse. So he confronts the scientist. Martin freaks out as the scientist tells him that it's just an infection. Simultaneously, Mr. Bartok discusses Martin's condition with the other doctor, who explains that it's inevitable and growing as Martin grows old. So Mr. Bartok asks her to prepare what she needs to do to Martin's condition. Meanwhile, Beth struggles to open her office. Surprisingly, Bartok's officer stands behind her and tells her that she's being transferred to another building. He tells her that it's the consequence of having an affair with Martin. He then hands her a videotape. Martin and Beth struggle to reach each other via call. Luckily, Martin is able to reach her. Beth immediately informs him that she was transferred because Mr. Bartok discovered their smelly hormone ship. Martin is confused about how they found out, but Beth madly tells him that it's because Mr. Bartok videotaped them naked in bed. After that, Martin gets infuriated and immediately goes home to look for the hidden camera. He breaks down the things in his house, searching for the camera. Simultaneously, the men monitoring his house worry that they might get caught in the record room. Eventually, Martin finds the camera and destroys it. The men in charge immediately inform Mr. Bartok when Martin breaks into the record room suddenly. He orders those peeping toms to leave. Then he checks the files there. Martin watches the files there, where he unexpectedly learns his father's true fate. He is in shock, and Mr. Bartok arrives and confronts him that it's what he has been waiting for, his inevitable transformation. He then reveals his plan of using Martin and the telepod for genetic manipulation for profit, which makes Martin extremely disappointed and betrayed. So Martin runs off, and the security personnel chases him. He runs into Bartok's officer, who hands the videotape to Beth. He ridicules Martin by telling him that he has seen the nasty video, making Martin furious and throwing him out of the window glass. After that, Martin escapes from the Bartok Industry building. Meanwhile, Mr. Bartok orders the scientists to operate the telepod. Surprisingly, they cannot access the system as Martin installed a password, together with a virus that will erase the programming once they input an incorrect password. Mr. Bartok gets mad at that. Momentarily, Martin arrives at Beth's place, which shocks her. Martin's physical appearance starts to change. He explains the situation. Beth is worried about his condition, so they flee together. Later, Mr. Bartok's security personnel arrive at Beth's empty house. The following day, Beth and Martin visit the place of his mother's old companion, Statheyes. Martin knocks at his door. As Martin mentions that he's Seth Brundle's son, Statheyes opens the door. He explains his condition, but Statheyes does not seem to believe it, so he breaks into his house. Martin tells him that he sees Statheyes in the videotape, which is why they come to know about the cure. He tells Martin about the possible cure that his father was working on, and that his father forcefully puts Ronnie in the pod, aiming for them to fuse and live in one body. But then, Statheyes confirms that the cure has something to do with the telepods. However, Martin seems disappointed as he wants to find other ways to be cured. Then he walks out. Before Beth comes after Martin, Statheyes hands her his car key, since he knows that they are being chased. While on their way, Beth convinces Martin to contact Bartok instead, and believes that he can help him through the telepods. but Martin tells her that he needs to sacrifice another life to be saved using the telepod. They arrive at a hotel. Beth comes in to book a room and sees that they are being searched on the news. As she checks Martin in the car, he is gone and she sees him running. She chases him and consoles him not to leave. One night, Beth wakes up and notices Martin's body is deteriorating. She tells him that he needs help, but Martin seems optimistic. He calmly tells her that he is instead becoming stronger, powerful, and much better. Beth is terrified of him. She runs off and contacts Bartok's industry. The following day, Bartok's personnel arrive as Beth surrenders Martin and herself. They try to ask Martin about the password, but he refuses. Bartok welcomes and talks with Martin, who becomes enveloped in a cocoon. After that, Bartok interrogates Beth for the password, while the scientist examines Martin's monstrous body. Suddenly, it releases liquid and transforms into a giant fly. Martin emerges from his cocoon. Another scientist comes and is shocked to see the other scientist's dead body. So he gets out quickly and runs into the security personnel, who are now looking for Martin. Mr. Bartok orders the security personnel to look for Martin and to make sure to capture him unharmed. They use the dog to trace Martin, but it becomes gentle to Martin and lets him escape peacefully. Meanwhile, Martin finds the other scientist and drags his body to Bay 17, where Bartok and his security personnel are located. One personnel goes out and looks for Martin, when suddenly Martin blows an acidic vomit at him. He screams in pain as it grossly melts his face. The other personnel comes looking for him. Mr. Bartok insists on keeping Martin's safety, for he will need him alive. Then Mr. Bartok's officer is determined to catch him. As he goes upstairs, Martin splashes him with his acidic vomit, which lightly damages his hand. He aimlessly shoots, trying to harm Martin, when suddenly Martin appears from behind and ends his acid life. Without anyone to protect him, Mr. Bartok gets the gun that Beth tries to acquire. He then confronts Martin and shoots him once. He turns around and points the gun at Beth. Right then, Martin gestures like attacking him from behind, so Mr. Bartok shoots him instead. After that, Mr. Bartok checks on Martin and is about to finish him, when suddenly Martin attacks him. He drags Mr. Bartok to the computer and forces him to type the password DAD. He then drags Mr. Bartok and himself into the telepod to do what his father had tried but failed to do. He gestures to Beth to initiate the gene swapping sequence, which Beth complies with and starts the telepod. A bunch of security personnel arrives. Successfully, Martin and Mr. Bartok come out of the other telepod. Beth helps Martin as he emerges and restores his human form. At the same time, Mr. Bartok transformed into a deformed monstrous form. In the end, Mr. Bartok ends up in the enclosure where they kept the dog. He turns into its situation, a mutated dog slithering into the dog's dish. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.